What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV, coming to you live on Thursday afternoon with a little extra cheese as we get ready for the weekend, so to speak. Adjust this a little bit so you don't see the reflection there. There we go. You finally caught an extra cheese, autopilot. Good to see you, Dan. Thanks for joining us. Lupo, loving all the extra cheese. That's what I'm talking about. You know, it's the dead part of the offseason a little bit. In between the rookie minicamp and the start of some more OTA practices on Monday, but doesn't mean people don't want to talk some Packers. Always stuff to jaw about. That's why Buddy's asking about the PGA. Like, I care about the PGA. Who cares is my answer to all PGA questions. What position competition are you more looking forward to? Wide receiver or defensive line? Probably defensive line, just because it's more physical and it's people hitting stuff. And I am kind of curious to see how much different in tenor LaFleur's practices are in camp, how much hitting happens. Now, in the NFL in general, there isn't a whole lot of hitting these days, but I am curious to see if it's a more physical camp. Under McCarthy, things had gotten very Club Med. But, between wide receiver and defensive line, I think both of those will provide ample competition, lots of intriguing parts at both position groups, but for me, probably most anxious to watch defensive line. Simply because it's funny, because when you talk defensive line, you can also throw in guys like Zadarius Smith or Rashawn Gary, guys who are technically probably going to be listed at outside linebacker, but who will definitely kick in and work with the defensive line on some of their rush packages. So I just think that's going to be a fascinating group to watch kind of play out over the summer. Is Darnell Savage enough talent for some fans to get over the Packers passing on Derwin James? Packer fans love to hold a grudge, so I doubt it. But yes, I think he has the talent. His ceiling is high enough where he could conceivably be a perennial Pro Bowler / possible All-Pro, which should, you would think, abate some of the complaints. But people are going to complain no matter what. What do I think of the circus that is the New York Jets? Well, you used the perfect word to describe it. It's a circus. It's an absolute joke. And it's funny because I don't remember who it was. It was either on a Extra Cheese or a Packers Daily. It might have been a Daily on Monday. Somebody asked about potential GM openings, GM spots coming open for Elliott Wolf. And I said at the time, this is before the Jets made their move, traditionally these moves get made after a season and generally don't happen in the spring. And then the Jets go and do the Jets. So there's a spot for Elliott Wolf, although it doesn't sound like he's in the mix from early reporting. But it just speaks to how dysfunctional that team is that they allowed a general manager who had the number 3 overall pick to go hog wild in free agency, sign a running back, which it turns out the coach didn't want. The coach that he not handpicked, but had a say in hiring, who then turned around, staged a coup, and a couple months into the job is now the de facto GM and head coach with a running back that he supposedly didn't want. 3rd overall pick, tons of money spent in free agency, and they fired the guy. That's the Jets. Total clown show. How much of Trevor Davis's poor decision-making can be attributed to Ron Zook? Well, Whiskey, I'd say some of it, and I'd say some of it goes to Mike McCarthy. I asked McCarthy about it point blank a couple of years ago. One of the midweek settings where we get to talk to coaches, both Mike and some of the coordinators. I said, "What's the rule, man? We got Trevor Davis back there catching the punts on the 3-yard line," and he said there was a rule, and because I had mentioned, Pop Warner back in the day in high school, you were told put your feet on the 10-yard line, and if you have to move backwards, don't field it. And he said there was a rule, but it was not the 10. But after that, he wouldn't go into specifics. So, that's a head coach. That's their responsibility to overrule their special teams coordinator if they're disagreement or they think it's a bad idea to have them fielding punts on the 3. Not only on the 3, by the way. Trevor Davis is the only NFL player I have ever seen in my entire life, and I have been on this planet for 45 years, ever to field a punt inside an end zone. Back in Chicago a couple years ago. Never seen it before. Doubt I'll ever see it again. But I salute him because he didn't get tackled in the end zone. So that's progress. Where do Jenkins and Turner fit on the O-line week 1 if everyone is healthy? I suspect Turner will be your starting right guard. Jenkins will most likely be first man off the bench. And the line will be, this is, sitting here right now in May, things could change with injury, etc. But my suspicion is it will be Bakhtiari, Taylor, Lindsley, Turner, Bulaga. Now, we'll see how the summer plays out. But that's my guess sitting here mid-May. Thanks for all you do, Nags, keeping us sane in the offseason. Well, I'm glad I'm helping you guys stay sane. Sometimes I feel like I'm going a little crazy talking into my computer every day, but I will say I have gotten so many lovely messages like your comment here, both in my inbox and on Twitter. I really appreciate it. We all appreciate it at Cheesehead TV. I greatly appreciate it personally. You guys are a really kind of amazing community that's kind of organically been built here. And I can't thank you enough for putting up with my nonsense. It really means a lot. Do you think Ty Summers has any chance to steal snaps from Burks? Yes, I do, Mark. Especially when they go some of the more power stuff and the heavier looks, base stuff, 3-4 base. He absolutely has, the opportunity is there. Now it's up to him to seize it. I think he's got the ability to do so. But yeah, I think if there's a way for him to get on the field outside of special teams, which is obviously for a young guy, the number one way to make the squad. Yeah, absolutely. Judging by what I've seen on tape, I think he can make that transition. No problem. Can we start a revolution against the gold package? John, you must have listened to Naglers Never Right this week with my guest Corey Lindsley, who flat out, unprovoked, called out the Milwaukee crowd. Oh, that was lovely. I, for years, have been saying how dead the Milwaukee crowd is, and every time I mention it on Twitter, I get attacked. And I had Corey Lindsley, no less a starting player for the Green Bay Packers, confirm it. Milwaukee, man, you guys got to bring your game. Do you believe Rodgers will have a record low number of pass attempts with LaFleur's emphasis on the run? I don't know about record low, but I think it will be noticeably less. I'm not ready to say they're going to suddenly become a power running team or a team that runs the football like 60-40. I don't think that's ever going to happen with Aaron Rodgers in town. But I do think it will take a noticeable – the run attempts will take a noticeable uptick. There's no doubt in my mind on that one. Who is our best position coach, in my opinion? That's way too early for that. Let me get to camp and see them in action. Although I will say I love Montgomery, the D-line coach. Love him. Inside linebacker is the weak link on D. I don't know. Can we, see how Pettin's going to deploy them first? I don't think so. I mean, they've got a lot of guys who can play down in the box at the safety position. That's what they did last year with so many, defensive backs and lots of different sub packages. In a league where you're in nickel 80% of the time, I think they're doing all right. Do I think Kumaro makes the roster? Yes, Julia, I do. I don't know what the combination is going to be or what the numbers are going to look like. But at the end of the day, I think Kumaro will be on the squad. But we'll see. Again, lots to play out yet. Summer has a way of not just by the play on the field, but injuries and attrition from the physical nature of camp has a way of kind of sorting those things out. I say the next special guest for Naglers Never Right should be Mike Pettin, see if he can make the guy laugh. I'd say Mike is great. I remember talking to him when he got the Browns job at the Combine. He's a great guy to talk football with. You guys have seen him undoubtedly on Packers.com when they show his press conferences. He is just a gem of a guy to talk football with. I would love to have him on the podcast. We'll see. We'll see what Packers PR is ready to dole out for the old Cheesehead TV. Speaking of Lindsley, is his contract up this year? I know they gave him a 3-year extension a few years back. If it is, we need him back. I believe he has one more year after this one, but I could be wrong. I thought it was. You might be right. I can't remember off the top of my head. If he is going to the last year of his deal, I would suspect that he gets re-upped mid-season. But I do think he's got another year. I don't think they'll have the sexiest stats on offense, but they'll be way more efficient. Nathan, I think that's a fair guess. Again, we have to see how they plan to utilize all the guys of their skill positions and how much emphasis they want to put on the running game. Obviously, LaFleur keeps talking it up. However, the history of the NFL will tell you that coaches always talk up the running game prior to getting on the field and getting in the game flow, and all of a sudden you've got Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and away we go. So we'll see. I need a time machine. Can't wait for the season to start. So stoked. Go Pack Go. Thomas, I'm with you. This is the hard part. We'll finally get a little bit more stuff to talk about next week when they hit the field for OTAs and then the minicamp in June. Then we've got that 5-week break, I think it is, prior to camp. That's when it gets hard. That stretch is tough. But yeah, I hear you, man. Love what they did with the offensive line. Didn't lose any guys, and we added some starters. I agree. Potential starters, definitely. Turner, I think, is the one guy who can definitely step in right away. I agree with you. I think they definitely needed to augment it, and they did that. Curious to see how it shakes out, no doubt. I feel Jamal Moore is going to be highly improved. Danny, I hope so. Again, it's all up to him. We've seen lots of clips online of his off-season workout regime. Definitely getting excited watching those, but doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot until he puts the pads on and has to produce. And I'm really anxious to see that this summer. He's got all the tools in the world. If he can hold on to the football, the sky's the limit. No doubt about it. Lindsley is a UFA after the 2020 season. Thank you, Michael. I thought so. Who's the best corner in the NFL? I think he just got suspended. Patrick Peterson's 6-game suspension was announced by the NFL earlier today. But in the NFL right now, that's a tough one. I mean, Peterson's up there, no doubt. Can't wait to see Alan Lazard get a shot. He's my sleeper to make the 53 at wide receiver. Long odds, Joseph. I'm not going to talk about anybody because every time I talk about being interested in seeing someone, they get cut. So I'm just going to relay what you've said here. Did I ever play Henry V? No, I was in Henry V, though. Not as Henry. Was Rodgers the archer, or was he the guy who died? I don't think he was either of those guys, Alex. I think he was somebody else. Out of the 3 second-year wide receivers, who's the most likely to break out? MVS. Does Tremont get some INTs this year? I hope so. Hated that he went the entire season last year and to get one. He got really close to one on a ricochet in week 1. But outside of that, they were few and far between the opportunities. And obviously, he switched to safety for the second part of the year, so that kind of took him out of those runnings. But, yeah, I'd love to see him get his hand on the football a little bit more. Stephon Gilmore is the best in your opinion. Nathan, I can see that. Definitely can see that. Kevin King, prove it year. Nick, no doubt about it. Has to stay on the field, 100%. You've seen the defense is much better when he does play, but he's got to play. He's got to play consistently. He's got to fight through whatever he's got to fight through to stay on the field. 100%. Hard-hitting question. Does Aaron Rodgers drink alcohol? I am not sure I've ever seen him with one. Yes, Max, he does. In fact, he talked about having a scotch after like every other game last year. No, I'm kidding. I'm exaggerating. But yes, no, he drinks. Actually, he and Mike McCarthy, there was an interview with, I believe it was Aaron, where he talked about having drinking scotch and McCarthy drinking vodka while they talked about life or something like that. I think it was a Sports Illustrated interview a couple years ago. But yes, he drinks alcohol. St. Brown in the slot, or do you think we'll have some surprises there? I think, I get asked about the slot thing a lot. And first up, we got to wait and see how this offense utilizes its personnel before we can really start talking with any kind of definitive manner as far as who's going to be used where. Obviously, there are guys who are more fitted to the boundary. There are guys who can play all over. Last year, you saw them use pretty much everyone in the slot at some point or another because of Randall Cobb's injury. I think EQ will see snaps in the slot. I don't think that's his best spot. I think he's probably best on the perimeter, but we'll see. We'll see how they utilize him. I think it's funny because with LaFleur and Rodgers both talking about how many condensed formations they want to use, I mean, there could be plenty of formations and personnel groups that feature guys almost all in the slot, where they have, those two wideouts tight in with the formation. So you're pretty much all slot receivers at that point. And nobody's on the boundary. That's, those instances will be only a handful per game, but they will exist. Everybody's got to be able to pretty much cross-train through everything. You've seen Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Greg Jennings throughout the years. Those are all kind of number ones that did it all. They've run them through all the positions, and I think most of the guys will have to do some, approach some of that while they're in Green Bay. Do you pay Dak Prescott if you're Dallas? Yes. Which player benefits the most on offense from Hackett and Pettin for defense? Whew, that's a good question. On offense with Hackett, I'll give it anybody on the offensive line. If you watch Hackett's trajectory, his entire career, whether it was in college or the pros, wherever he's gone, he's had a really effective run game, and the offensive lines have played very well to make that kind of an engine everywhere he's gone. So I suspect that will continue in Green Bay. As far as on defense with Pettin, I think Blake Martinez is a guy who continues. I mean, I think you saw him kind of scratch the surface last year. I know he has his detractors, sometimes in these comments, sometimes on Twitter. I think he's only scratched the surface of his potential. I think you'll continue to see him grow in comfort level as far as within Pettin's scheme. I mean, you just look last year how many different kind of ways they utilized him, the different personnel groupings, everything he had to control. I'm excited to see him in year 2 with a year of comfort under his belt. Nagler was an orphan. 'Twas not an orphan. I was adopted. Which matchup are you looking forward to the most? Bears, Chiefs? That's a good question, Thomas. The Chiefs game will be off the hook. Arrowhead on a Sunday night. That'll be fun. Nothing really jumps out. Not the way that the Patriots game did last year, which was the obvious one you pointed to in the offseason. This year, I really want to beat the Vikings. I always want to beat the Vikings. Those are the games I really get up for, but they're all Packer games. They're all exciting. Kumaro is a good fit in the slot. Joseph, I totally agree. Yet I like multiple tight end formations. High on the staff to better utilize our tight ends. Play action passing. Yeah, I would very much agree with that aspect. As far as last year's usage at the tight end spot was just head scratching, to say the least. That's another area where I think Hackett will help. But yeah, I tend to agree. Multiple tight end formations, lots of condensed stuff, and then using that run action to get things open for Rodgers. Probably delineated reads on one side of the field. I'm excited for it. How can we best use Jackson if he doesn't get better at press? Vince, that's a really good, new, original way of asking if they're going to transfer him to safety. Thank you for at least putting it a different way. But essentially, that's what that question is. They have to bank on his development. They used a pretty significant draft pick to get him. I wouldn't say he struggled at press. I think he was inconsistent, but that's to be expected for a rookie corner. People expect these guys to come in, and there was a lot of hype around Jackson heading into the draft last year. But I thought he played pretty darn well. I think he hit a rookie wall. There's no doubt about that. He certainly had his struggles both at the line and downfield with grabbing guys, but there's a lot of potential there, a lot of upside. He's just got to continue to develop. And I think I think the sky's the limit there. He could be a very good player in this league, but it is up to him to make that jump from year 1 to year 2. No doubt about it. Week 1 is really exciting. Bears again, healthy Rodgers, improved defense. I agree, Lupo. I'm down with that, and for no other reason than I want Aaron Rodgers to completely torch Clinton Dix at least once, so we can draw up all those tweets from Bears fans and Bears writers talking about what a great deal the Bears got compared to the Packers signing Amos. Oh, I'm living for that. Could Hackett or Pettin be head coaching candidates in 2020 if we have a good year? Is Pettin even interested? Mike, Pettin was asked a couple times last year about it, and he swears he is done trying to be a head coach. I think that experience in Cleveland really scarred him, and I think he really enjoys what he's doing in Green Bay, building that defense. And he had the opportunity to put his name in the ring for the head coaching job, and I think he declined to do so. So, I don't think Pettine would be. Hackett, that's a big jump in 1 year. Maybe, but, since LaFleur is calling the plays, it's very, very rare that that guy who's the offensive coordinator but doesn't call the plays gets that call. Now, you never know. Obviously, he's well-liked around the league, has a family name that lots of people know. So maybe, but it feels like a big jump. Now, maybe if they have some sustained success over a couple years, then maybe his phone starts to ring. But for 1 year, that seems quick. But hell, you never know. I felt lucky already to grow up a Packers fan in Connecticut, but discovering Cheesehead TV makes it even better. Thank all of you guys for everything you do for us. Eric, thank you for checking it out, man. Thanks a lot. Andrew. Thanks, Andrew. Look at Andrew. Promotion in motion here. Like, share, subscribe. Ticket King. Bears still suck. Go, Pack, go. Andrew, thanks for bringing up Ticket King. You can get all your Packer tickets, whatever you need, whatever game, home, away. They're right across from Lambeau Field, or you can go to cheeseheadtv.com and check out the link on our homepage. They've been around since 92. They're true Packer fans. They know everything there is to know when it comes to getting tickets. They got all the tickets for all your Packers games, preseason and regular season. Check them out. Ticket King. They're the way to go. Go to cheeseheadtv.com. Click on the link. Mike. How about those Bucks? I didn't watch a lick of the game, but sounded like it was great. I'm very excited for my Bucks fans' friends. Do you believe Aaron Jones will have 1,000 yards rushing this season in LaFleur's running back by committee approach? I think he'll approach it, Evan. You can never be too certain with a committee and or injuries popping up along the way. I just think it'll be below. I think he'll hover around 800, 900 yards, somewhere around there. I do think the Williams brothers will take enough touches from him to keep him just below 1,000, but you never know. Maybe he gets crazy and actually rides a hot hand, doesn't just talk about it, and LaFleur lets him loose. We'll see. Who's the one player from last year's 53 that you wouldn't be surprised to be cut this summer? Mason Crosby. Do you think the NFL would ever consider a draft lottery similar to the NBA? No chance. So there was an article about LaFleur not having control of his coaching hires. Yes, there was, Neil. That was from my buddy Tom Silverstein over there at the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. The Packers have made it very clear that that is not the case. I tend to think that is either a former coach who has left the building or an agent for a coach that didn't get a job, putting that out there. We'll never know. But not only have the Packers said that on the record, but I've been told pretty reliably that LaFleur had complete control of the hiring of his staff. Take that as you will. All right, everybody, I'm going to have to jump. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. It blows me away every day. I'm just here talking Packers, and a ton of you show up. It's kind of amazing. Thank you so much for all the interest and support of Cheesehead TV. If you'd like to support Cheesehead TV and everything we do, please consider $5 a month on our Patreon page, patreon.com/CheeseheadTV. It gets you exclusive access to my podcast, Naglers Never Right. Had Corey Lindsley on this week, had Brian Gutekunst on last week. Tons of good stuff. Like, subscribe, share, tell your friends here on YouTube, Facebook, whatever social platform is your preference. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll talk to you soon.